Hello, Sheena Douglas here with this little cheeky little elf from my Perfect Partners stamp and die set, and I really, I think he's really cute, but also a bit cheeky. If you look, the whole idea about this little person was that he's got a front and a back. So if you look, there's the front, and he's also got a little bit of movement and articulation on some layers here. And he's also got the back and his little coat. You can push that out so it swings further out. And the idea was, one of the things you can do is you can actually hold this scroll that comes with this die set, and there you can write on your Christmas greetings, whoever it is, and just attach it with loosely with a little bit of maybe something, a double sticky pad that you've taken the stick away, so that when they've got the card, you can take them away and you've got a cute little Christmas decoration. Or you could even have them as a little place setting, pop them inside a glass or a wine glass and have individual names on there. And the other idea was that you can actually have them also with a card to hang over the top like this, so that it's just peeking over in it, like a little peeking over the top of the card, and then when you open it up, there he is and his little feet and everything, and then you can take him off, and then he can also be used as a bookmark. So I'm going to show you how to put him together and all the little bits that you need. So these are the elements you're going to need to make up this little Christmas elf. So you've got the die here, which is just one side, as you can see. To save you cost, I've just worked on one side of the die, and I'll show you how we're going to work it so that you can actually use the front and the back of the die via the stamps. So you've got the one that the die here that you would cut, and the front of the stamp that corresponds exactly to this with all the detail, but then you've also got the back, and I'll show you how we'll work with that. So this is the back of him, and as well as that you've got the Christmas scroll die and you've got the Christmas scroll stamp. So those are the bits we're going to be working with. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut out 3 of your little elves, and you're going to emboss 2 of them. These 2 have been embossed. You'll be able to see the little ripples in his jacket. That's what's happened. This one hasn't been embossed because he's going to be turned over and stamped, be stamped for the back. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. This one I've already stamped, but I'm going to show you now how to stamp them, how to line it up with the stamps. Use an ink, a little bit more a softer colour than a hard black ink, and I've been using this stone grey Stays On. Anything archival, any of the paler archival colours, like even a coffee, a brown, or like I say, a grey colour. I think it's just nicer and softer for these little characters, and any of the Perfect Partners dies, to be honest, than a hard black. Actually, archival is actually better than a Stays On because it's going to stay wet longer while you get this inked up and put the dye to it. So this is what I've found the easiest way and the quickest way to do it. So pop your stamp without a block or anything, just pop it onto your surface, ink them up, and then take your die, turn them over, and I like to start lining up the head and the arm. So just hover over and get the head matched up with the pom-pom, and then just start on that little bit, just anchor that, and that should be his face and his features there sorted. Then I'm going to work on separate arms. So again, just to make sure he's perfectly aligned, just nudge it over until you press it down. You haven't picked up the ink, so don't worry too much about getting double impressions and things. And then his coat and his buttons, and then his little feet, just to line them up again at the last bit, and then just press down. To me, that is so much quicker than trying to do target practice by taping down dies and things. And if you look, that's pretty good. There's absolutely no halo around the outside. We've got edge to edge, image to stamp, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted that kind of precision, and that's the way to do it, to be honest, rather than line it up, because if you line up you can beat out so easily with just a little millimetre or 2 can make it not work. So this is definitely what I've found with trial and error. Now, a little thing, when you pick it up, if you say that there's a little bit missing, maybe the fingers, you've missed the fingers, if you look at your die you should see any dark bits on there, and if it's an archival it'll have stayed wet long enough for you to just pop it back over and just press down and pick up the ink that you missed. But with it being a StazOn and I've got really strong lights here, most of it's dried, although it was a little bit, excuse me, a little bit there. So you want 2 of those done, and there's the one I did previously, so they're ready to go. Now I didn't mention card, the Sheena stamping card, perfect, or watercolour card. Because I'm going to use aqua markers to colour them in with, I've used the watercolour card. You can see it's a bit creamier. That's the watercolour card. This is the Sheena stamping card. So pop them to one side. I'll show you how we do the back. So there's the back there. And we're going to ink him up again. And then we're going to turn it over this time. Sorry, we're not going to turn it over this time. Exactly the opposite to what I've just said. We're going to leave him like that because obviously that's the way he's going to have to marry up this time. And we're going to pop his little head there and press down. Then just as we did before, get the arms sorted. Each one, just nudge them slightly just so you've got everything exactly where you want it to be. And then his little jacket. And then his legs. Now when I show you this, you'll see straight away that because we've saved money by not doing 2 dies, you've got little detail marks here which we don't want to see. So there is a way around that. It's easy peasy. What you do is you stamp your little elf again, just the jacket and the hat is all we need. And then you're going to cut it out and colour it so that when we stick it on, it's going to cover. It's really, this is the, I think a very little compromise to be able to save on the most expensive element, which was the dye. And you've got that perfect little jacket there, which when we stick him on later is going to cover any of those little bits that that you don't want to see, yeah. And the little hat there, which will cover the little line on his head. It's a little bit dodgy there, but it'll all fit together perfectly. So that's what you're going to do. This is what you're going to stamp out. Then you're going to just cut out the hat and the jacket, and we'll pop that to one side for the colouring. The other thing you're going to do is, in the prep, we'll pop the stamps away now because we're done with them, is these 2 little people here. You're going to use one of them as the main body of the character, and the other one, now this looks a bit gruesome, so be prepared, is you're going to cut, or just little nick marks, little tabs here holding these little things together. But if you're careful, you don't even need to use a knife, and pull the hat away there. Also the jacket, if you look there, that should come away just easily there. And then this jacket, this side, okay, because that's going to make it look much more 3D and give it a much more interest. Same with the feet, with the shoes. Put them up a little bit further, get them better in shot. And then what you're going to be left with is something a bit weird that looks like that. A bit gruesome, a bit dodgy, but we can just bin that, we don't need that. But that's what you're going to need. So you're going to need a full one there, you're going to need that there. We've talked about the back bit, and then I'm going to show you how to colour it and put it together. So what I've done is I've deliberately left these little tights here plain, because then I thought you've got the option to leave them plain, or you can put dots on them, or you can do something like I'm doing. You can paper piece them, you can use scrapbook papers with a small pattern, anything you want for these bits. But I thought what I'd do is show you how I've drawn in the stripes for his tights. So all you do, rather than use a pen again, so it's not too strong a line, I'm using just an ordinary graphite pencil, and I'm just drawing in stripes, and I'm keeping them a little bit curved as his legs would be, just a little bit of a little slight shallow curve, and keep going till you get to the top, and there's your stripy tights drawn. Now we're going to get to colouring. The first thing I'm going to do is colour his skin, and then that's done, because we don't know that there's nothing going to cover that bit up. Now I've got a selection of colours here, well, a couple here from the aqua markers, Spectrum aqua markers, which are water-based pens with full of watercolour, believe it or not. So what I'm going to do is, before you start, just take a couple of colours that you think might look close and try them out and see which one you prefer for his skin tone. Maybe a little combination of the two here. So I'm using Topaz and Desert. So now, rather than colour straight on with either of these colours, I think I'm going to do a little bit of the topaz as the overall colour, scribble on my mat, use a brush, pick it up, and then brush it on. And then I'm not going to get too strong a colour, I can just lighten it a little bit for his face and his hands. And you can always go darker, but so don't start too dark, you can always darken it later. Now I do need a little bit of colour in his cheeks, and I find it's easier to pop a little bit while it's wet. So I'm using Sunset here, which is an orangey colour. Again, watered down, just start at the side and just give him a little bit of a healthy glow. And you can even pop a little bit of a pinky tint to his hands as well. Now I want a little bit of a shading around his hairline, so I'm going to use that little darker colour, the Desert, and I'm just going to pick that up on the brush again and just go around his hairline and the sides of his face. Just it'll cool it down a little bit, and it'll just give it a little bit of shading. Now at the minute it looks bright because there's no other colour there, but when we get everything else on there, it's going to look fine. So that's the first bit. Oh, his hair as well. I'm going to use a brown colour for his hair. We'll use maybe a bit of chocolate, but again, we'll water it down a little bit. So that's his hair done. So that's ready. That's good to go. Now, and we're going to do his jacket and his legs. Let's colour his legs in before we do the jacket, because that'll go on the top. So I'm just going to wipe those colours off there. Just keep remembering to wipe the colours that you've popped on your mat so you don't contaminate them. Now, this should be watercolour card, and I will. So in that case, I can just take my pen and just go ahead and colour like this. If it's the Sheena card, I think it's a little bit more difficult to get it to blend perfectly on the card. It seems to grab the colour a little bit more, so I always tend to use the watercolour card if I'm going to directly to the project with the pens and not brushing it on. There's his little stripy legs there. Now also what we're going to do later is we'll put a little bit of shading down there, because we can use one of those, maybe a little bit of a grey colour. Let's do it now. Let's use a little bit of this one, a lighter grey, and see what this looks like. And just go down the side, each leg, maybe in the middle. And then it makes it look more 3D. Yeah. Now the jacket, we'll pop this little blokey to one side, and we'll, oh actually no, let's do the little top. Let's do the top a kind of a yellowy colour. Again, we'll just brush it on because it's a strong yellow, so I don't want it to be too vivid, because I'm going to save that for his little the little bell on his hat and his on his shoes as well. So we'll pop that there. And again, we can always shade this with a little bit of that same pale grey pen to give it a little bit of definition, which we'll do later. So we've got the hat, the jacket and his shoes to colour, which we've got separate here. So we'll do that. Right, so to colour the jacket, I'm going to take the pen and I'm just going to go directly to his jacket like this. And I'm going over the buttons because we can pop those in later. And I'm just going to go straight over like this. And then I'm going to take some orange, and I'm going to use the brush now. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to pop the orange on there, which should warm that up a little bit, and I'm going to blend the red that's also I've just put on. So a little bit of a warmer tone, just to see now he's got a little bit of shadow and a bit of contour into it. It's not quite as flat. What I can do is, if I want that stronger, I can add more colour to it later, but don't put the pen on a wet surface, because it'll just drag out all the ink, it'll stick and it won't look pretty. Okay, so that's that. And now I'm going to use a little bit of the green, and because it's just a small area, I'm just going to try brushing it on. Now this, you could do gold, you could do any colour. I mean, this is really just one suggestion of something of what you can do. It's entirely, this is the fun of it. This is why I wanted to leave the detail and pattern off, so you could play whichever way you wanted to play. Now, ideally that should be dry, so that then I can colour the buttons and either use a dark grey or a brown. Let's see what this dark grey is going to look like. You see what I mean about it? When it's wet, it becomes like blotting paper and it looks a little bit fuzzy. So it would have been much, much better to let that dry. And it would be, yeah, because you see what's happening is it's feathering out. So you don't really want that to happen. If you look at this one, it's much sharper. So let that dry before you do that. But it's okay, I can fix one. I have one I made earlier. So it's a similar technique to when you're doing the little feet as well. I've just noticed that little hand needs to be cut out. So it's the same technique with the feet and the hat. So go ahead, colour them in, and then we'll meet up again. So these have been coloured in now. A little tip, if you want to add a little bit more shading, you could always use one of those pale grey pens from the Aquatint set, and just go around the edge, and it'll just give it a little bit more definition and a little bit more shading, a little bit more arty. And the one I'm using here is Slate. Okay, so that's done now. Now this is where we're going to stick him together. Now if you look at him, looks a bit strange, but what I've done is, good tip this one, is go around the outside, like put him down and draw around just off the edge and catching the edge with the colour that is going to be covered up with the corresponding piece. And that's so that when you get it stuck together, you haven't got white edges showing where the layers are at the side, if that makes sense. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sticking them together, and I want to give it a little bit of movement. So I like to use the tacky glue here. This is the Crafter's Companion tacky glue, which is this one here. And I'm just going to start sticking a little bit of glue on this jacket. And then lining things up. And what I've done is, can you see how I've bent the jacket out a little bit there, so that it looks like it's got a little bit of a it's blown a little bit, and it's a bit proud of the background. I just think it looks a bit much more 3D that way. And the same with the other side. I'll stick that. I like this glue because it grabs really quickly, and if you get a little bit that you can't really see it, it'll dry, so you can't really see it that much. And so if you want it, like, kind of play around with it, say if I've pushed that together so that it's come up a little bit and given it a little bit of a more shaping, so you can see the jacket's clearly in front of his little belt there. And then the hat. Also, the reason I like to use the wet glue is it'll stick all these little kind of cut marks I've got in the dies for you, to make it easier to pull apart. It just seals them and kind of bonds them together properly again. Now you can dome the hat. If you use a little bit, something like the Kalal 3D gel, you can even take it further and have that even more proud of that. So cute when he comes together. I love the colours. I love the intensity of these. I've coloured him in with Distress inks before, aqua tints. What you are like are really the strong colours, and you can get that with the aqua markers. I just think it looks really, nice and bright for Christmas. Pop a little bit of glitter on there if you want. Now the back is going to be exactly the same, with the little bits like this. I'm going to stick those on. Now with this I like to turn the jacket bottom out a little bit, just so it looks like it's got a little bit of a swing to it. Which is why, again, painting around the outside or using the pen around the outside just covers a little bit underneath where you might have seen white cord, which you don't want to see. And then his little hat at the back. Give that a little bit of a turn. So just so you can see the front and the back at the same time, there you go. I'll pop this together like that. So there's the front, there's the back. In fact, give me a sec, I'll pop a nice little bit of green cord here so you can see better. The front and the back. Yeah, spot on. So his little jacket there is just got that little bit of a sway. I mean, you can even take it further. You can 3D the boots even more. You can do as many layers as you want. If you love decoupage, these are absolutely spot on for that. And then, because what you're going to do then is stick them both together, and you've got the whole. And what will happen as well is it's going to be really strong. It's going to be really, really, you know, good weight, and you've got a really nice little, you know, little bookmark, a little gift, a little charm for the tree, anything, like I say, placemats, anything like that is going to be spot on. Look at these again in amongst these little cards. Perfect. So you've got that little cheeky little element, but you've also got a little bit of a sophisticated background if you want it. And that's the elf.